Hallo miteinander, I'm G86 and this is Tenjou no Tempest. Last time we found out what was causing all those earthquakes, an unstable keystone. Getting to it won't be a problem, as stage 6 is just an empty, foreboding corridor with a few fault lines. Delicious energy to prepare us for a showdown with Yukari and Iku. Now Iku is someone we've only seen very briefly before. She's a messenger from the Dragon Palace and an indirect servant to the Celestials, even though she's a demon herself. While messenger may be Iku's job description, her story in Touhou 10.5 might give you the impression that she could also be a spontaneous nanny to Tenchi. After all, she did end up punishing the childish mistress for all the havoc she wreaked upon the land. With that in mind, could she really betray us? Yukari here explains that the Celestial people knew about the problems with the keystones, but denied any of the disasters that would inevitably result. It was then that Iku decided to go off on her own and do something about this, which is also why she went to Yukari for assistance. If all that were really true, the Celestial suspicion about Iku being the cause of the earthquakes would have been misplaced. It also means that we wouldn't have a reason to fight, right? Logically, no. But then why oh why does Iku still refuse any of our help with such vigorous hostility? It simply can't be helped. We must beat some sense into our friend. Yukari will be staying passive for the duration of this duel. I don't exactly know why. Maybe she's out of level cheat spells for the day and can't teleport us to where the sun don't shine anymore. Whatever it is, I'm not actually complaining about it. We don't even have time to complain. If we don't watch it, Iku's magical ribbons will drill us into mush. It wouldn't be an attack that is hard to avoid, but it leaves so many of these annoying little sparks in its way. They are what makes it so hard to reach your target without putting yourself at great risk. If you wait patiently though, until Iku has rushed along the arena twice, she will form an electrical geyser. That is your chance to strike, as she'll be wide open. In case you're unfamiliar with Iku as a character, her theme is all about lightning. Getting zapped is going to be an omnipresent danger, not just in this phase. Oh, how I love wasting a downed opponent with a Scarlet Weather Rhapsody. This time though, it might have been a mistake. You'll understand. In between spell cards, Iku reveals more and more of her motivations. She wanted to put a quick end to this crisis, so that Tenchi's and the Celestials' involvement didn't become public. To keep them from shame, becoming a scapegoat was the price that she would pay. Too bad for her that we did find out and got involved. The current phase recreates the third spell card of Iku in Touhou 10.5 story mode, but not as faithfully. Is that some form of criticism? Actually not, as I despise that spell card. I am so glad that this game's version of it is much easier to handle. For most of the time, Iku will float around with her electric shield. That one is very painful to the touch, but it will not protect her from your shots. Nonetheless, to deal the bulk of the damage, you will have to wait until she lifts that shield and catapults it at you. That's the moment where you open up your can of whoop ass. While the shield is active, make sure to take wide leaps over Iku, or else things like that will happen. Another recommendation from me, use your ammunition responsibly. Me gunning around like a drunkard, in combination with the complete overkill that was Scarlet Weather Rhapsody from before, have caused something unprecedented. For the first time in the LP, we are completely dry on energy. Ah, so stupid. Iku only had a slither of health left too when it happened. Oh well, it slowed us down, but it's far from the greatest mistake humanity has ever made. Here's where we find out that Iku's Ironheart loyalty stems from an old pact. If the Celestials ever messed up like they did, she vowed to protect their dignity at all costs. That is so commendable. Incredibly stupid, but commendable. Now this spell card is easily the most dangerous that Iku has in store for us. These electric star constructs can deal a lot of damage very quickly. With how intimidating they look, you'd think you'd want to play it very defensively. But I think the best defense here is a good offense. I know that doesn't sound very convincing when we're so close to getting killed here, but hear me out. If you take up the courage to dash right into Iku's fishy face, not only will you be able to deliver a few good hits, but the next star will form around you. And it's actually spacious enough to move around in there safely, unless you're as hectic as I was in this try. We finally find out how Iku intends to save the day. She knows a technique that could neutralize all the energy that the keystone holds trapped. The only downside to this technique is that it would kill her in the process. We can't have that. I mean, what would become of us without our dear nanny? Who's going to pay the bail money the next time Tenchi gets caught flying drunk or steals expensive jewelry? No, we have a clear goal now. We must save our friend from herself. The fourth spell already happens to be Iku's final one. Unlike the boss's prior, I don't think she has an alternative spell card. I only ever saw this one, and well, it's kind of pathetic. The fight until this point was pretty challenging, but this is just some easy to dodge lightning that you can exploit for causing weather. As Iku's health diminishes below half, she will summon additional lines of lightning, and those are a bit harder to avoid. But why should we even leave her at such low health, when we can just do this instead? Yeah, it's a good idea to have an air-based super handy here. The final stretch isn't hard, but the fight as a whole is, so you don't want to botch it this late. Finally, we have beaten Iku into submission so hard that she can't use her idiotic technique anymore. And now we're going to take care of this huge destructive mass of energy by, well, wishing it away from the bottom of our hearts? Maybe? Pretty please? It's pretty safe to say that Tenchi didn't really think this all through, but with our victory, stage 6 is cleared nonetheless. In the past, we have had one stage per session only, but we're gonna keep playing for now. I mean, the video isn't even all that long yet, and stopping at such a cliffhanger would be nothing but cruel. Well, now what? Do we have to powerlessly watch as Gensokyo gets ravaged by the greatest earthquake it has ever seen? On top of it all, it seems Nua has failed in her guard duty. What is it with us getting such worthless sidekicks all the time? But we might be a bit too quick to judge. Suako is here to redeem herself. With her help, the group figures out that Tenchi's Sword of Hiso can be used as an energy conductor. After all, it's what enabled us to absorb these scarlet clouds. The big question is, can it hold all this feral energy? It's not like we have a choice here. In our desperation, we must take this gamble whether we like it or not. Well, who would have thought? It worked. There's just one little detail that we have ignored. The Sword of Hiso is a sentient artifact, and to make this possible, we had to free it from our command. Getting the perfect opportunity for vengeance, the sword decides to release all this energy right here, all at once. Well, bummer. That's exactly what we didn't want. Yes, we have been betrayed by our own tools. Our only chance now is to divert the sword's attention and make it waste all of its newfound strength on us. At this moment, Tenchi realizes that it was her own selfishness that has led to things going so dire. With clenched teeth, she apologizes to Suako, Yukari, and especially Iku. By jumping over her own shadow, the powers of flight that were stripped away from Tenchi at the very start of our quest finally become unsealed. Let us put them to use for the first time now. Let the final battle commence. So, controls get massively simplified for this part, making the game feel a lot more like a shoot 'em up. You can move in all directions, you still have your dodges, and your standard attack for melee and beams, but that's about it. No jumping obviously, no switching styles either, we are stuck with a no-cost version of the Dense Diamond Blaster. Sadly, no supers, and most of all, our sword attack button doesn't do anything anymore. Gee, I wonder why we can't use our sword anymore in this situation. 'Tis truly a mystery for the ages. The fight itself was pretty self-explanatory at the start, but once the sword reaches a third of its health, it will retreat to the background and force you into a survival phase. As it goes on, the exploding trails will appear more frequently, with more of them at a time. They do hurt a lot if they catch you, but they're still not the worst. In fact, this probably looks much harder than it really is. Remember, you only have to concentrate on evading. In time, the Sword of Hiso will stop being a coward and jump back into action. At that point, the sword will become a lot more aggressive and rush after you every so often. When you see that red shine on it, prepare to float out of the way. Unless you flat out forget, it's not all that dangerous. Even though the game has thrown a lot of its mechanics out of the window, activation is still possible. You want to dodge a lot of shots and have the sword marked constantly, because that will lock the aim of your fire onto it. Really, you don't want this effect to run out, as aiming manually is very clunky. You always have to move into the direction you're shooting. Alright, we have reached the second phase of the sword. And yes, your eyes are not deceiving you. It is using Scowled Weather Rhapsody of all humankind against us. It's a lot less scary than it looks though, because it's always fired at the same two angles, and not directly where you are. More than anything else, it is helpful. You need it for activation. The small bullets won't work for that. With that said, our plan of attack is a simple one. We just dash through the big beam once to get the automatic aim, and then we hide away from the curtain of bullets while whittling down the boss. Rinse and repeat when it runs out. All in all, pretty easy. Easier than the first phase by far. By now, and a good while after this recording, I found out that a safe position is at the very bottom of the screen, in line with the sword itself. Very few shots will stray all the way down there to you. It's pretty sweet. You know, I've got to admit, with how this fight feels and how it is visually, it's pretty awesome. It would be even better if it wasn't as harmless as the gimmick true final boss of most Kirby games. Once again, that comparison was brought to us by our source Cogwheel. I found it so fitting I had to use it. Did we win? Have we done it? Or do we have to endure even more? Nope, we have bested our mad sword, and peace and quiet have returned to Gensokyo and paradise above. I guess Tenshi's way was the best one after all. Iku wonders if this whole ordeal has helped Tenshi grow up a little. If it maybe, just maybe, made her overthink her troublemaking attitude, so that perhaps one day she can become a better person. You know what I think? I think Iku is one big gullible oarfish. We're talking about Tenshi Hinanai here. By the end of the week, she'll have forgotten everything her little adventure has taught her. But you know what? That is a-okay. Gensokyo needs its share of bad girls. As they say, without darkness, you cannot see the light. Never change, Tenshi. Never change. So, this was our run through the Tempest of Heaven and Earth. By tradition, I give a short review at this point, but I feel like it's almost redundant this time. I told you at the very start of the Let's Play that I adore this game. The action is deliciously over the top, the controls are comfortable and responsive, and finally, the combat system is complex and very fun to explore. During the Let's Play, I never got around to mentioning the game's music. My bad. Now, Toho fan games, they always have the advantage that they can borrow the original compositions by Zun. That generally gives them a good foundation. Some of them feel a bit lazy in their arrangements, not this game. Every theme has a lot of energy and a really good instrumentation. Those drums you hear in the ending, for example, simply sexy. It's very hard for me to even pick favorites here. The tracklist is really good from start to finish. If I was forced to nominate a winner, it would be the title screen music. Really gets you pumped. Stage 1 theme is very good as well. And as for boss themes, Suako's, yeah, very dark and menacing, that one. Gotta be a bit objective here. Is there anything you could criticize about this game? Well, it's still not translated. That makes it a bit harder for us than it needs to be. But that's hardly the game's fault. Anything more substantial? It does have a few annoying bugs. That, on the other hand, is the game's fault, but none of them can really kill the fun. And so, our ride ends with a results screen. It shows our net clear time, the total amount of deaths, and our accumulated end of stage bonuses. I'm Gash86, this was the finale of Tenjou no Tempest, And next time, the bonus episode. Bis bald!